Good morning. I want to welcome you to today's committee hearing. The date is Wednesday, April 30th. I'm joined at this time by my dear friend and colleague, Councilmember Perry. It is my understanding that Mr. Cardenas is en route, but we will get started. Mr. City Attorney, I think what we want to do at this time, as we wait for Mr. Cardenas, is we'll start with public comment. And the first person that I'm going to call up to speak is Peter Reece from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Please come forward. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Councilman Wesson. And thank you to the members and to the chair for giving me an opportunity this morning. I'm Peter Reece, and I'm Vice President of AIDS Healthcare Foundation here in Los Angeles. And I'm here this morning to ask the committee's help to perhaps mediate a dispute that is brewing between my organization and the city of Los Angeles. Just a brief bit of background. AIDS Healthcare Foundation is an AIDS medical organization. We're now 20 years old. We had our roots here in Los Angeles. Over the last 20 years, we've grown to become the largest AIDS organization in the United States and now treat 65,000 people in 20 countries around the world. We began originally as a hospice provider back in the days when there was not much that could be done for people with AIDS. After building our first hospice, we gathered financing to build 2 more. The issue in dispute is around the third facility. It's a facility named Lynn House. When we were putting the financing together, we got a loan from the city and combined it with bonds from the Cal Mortgage, as we commonly refer to it, to raise the money to build the facility. The problem that we're having is that the city has now decided to call the loan. They have looked at the original use permit, which was for hospice care, which they viewed as housing. As most of you know, in 1996, not long after we completed the facility, the new therapies that were miraculous and came on the scene started changing the needs for AIDS patients, and hospice disappeared largely, which was a great thing. But it put us in a situation where the facility had to be used for something else. Today, it houses our managed care operation that cares for thousands of patients. It's a large and sophisticated operation. The city has decided that that is not a proper use. So they have called the loan and issued a notice of foreclosure. So we're looking for some help to try and get to a reasonable mediation on the subject.
Okay. We've had a series of meetings kind of facilitated through my office, with Andrew taking the lead, where we had your organization, Council District 5, Housing Department. And so it's my understanding at the last meeting that whatever terms were suggested were unacceptable, I think, to your organization. But I will have Andrew chat with you, but because I remember personally sitting in 2 of the meetings with myself, and it is kind of a tricky situation where it relates to the initial use or the use of the. So now, as I'm getting older, I had a senior moment, but it all comes back to me now. And I just want to assure you that we attempted, along with the assistance of Jack Weiss's office, to try to do something. So I'll have Andrew chat with you and discuss the status now. And I thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thank you, Councilman, and I thank you for the help of the committee. Thanks.
Okay. We've just been joined by Mr. Cardenas, so we do have a quorum. So what I'm going to do is suspend public comment just for a few moments as we quickly dispense with some non-controversial items. So, Ms. Barclay, let us read items 1, please.
Item 1 are reports from the CRA and the CAO relative to various actions related to the Calco Steel project.
So then on item 1, we'll adopt the CAO report. What I want to do, let's put on hold items 2 and 3. They're cards from the public. If you could read item 4.
Item 4 is a report from the Community Development Department and the CAO relative to the selection of family development network providers in the San Fernando Valley. We recommend a technical amendment that's been provided to the clerk.
Okay, then on item 4, we'll adopt the CAO report. That brings us to item 5.
Item 5,
Wait, did I?
we just
We just
we
went
just
back
did
and
item
forth.
5. I read item 5 instead of item 4, excuse me.
Okay, well, then we'll just, then what we will do, that's no big deal. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to get an additional chair to put behind me for Mr. Cardin's staff that was so quick in catching. No, don't be embarrassed. Next time, just don't say anything. No, but anyway, I'm going to have you sitting right over here to my left. But so that action was then on item 5. So on item 5, we'll adopt the CAO report with the technical amendment. Now, if we could do item 4.
Yes, sir. Item 4 are reports from the CDD and the CAO relative to the acceptance of Justice Assistant Grant funds.
Okay, on item
4.
we will adopt the, I'm just waiting for a nod. We will adopt the CAO report. Item 6.
Item 6 is reports from the CDD and the CAO relative to the East Los Angeles State Enterprise Zone designation.
Okay, then on item 6, we'll adopt the CAO report. That brings us to item 7.
Item 7 is a motion, Wesson Reyes, relative to proposal to the MacArthur Park Foundation Awards for State and Local Housing Preservation Leaders.
The motion is proposed by,
Council Member Wesson.
so what do you suggest we do on this item?
Adopt the motion.
I will follow your suggestion, and on item 7, we will adopt that motion. Now, we have cards on item 2, and I think, oh, wow, we have a lot on item 3.
We go back to 2?
So we'll go with item 2 right now.
Oh, excuse me. Item 2 are reports from the CRA and the CLA and a resolution relative to the sale of CRA-owned land and various other actions for the NoHo Commons project.
Okay, we have a card from the public. I think it's Marnie Roosevelt. Was I right?
Yes.
All righty then.
Hi.
Good morning.
Roosevelt. Good morning. I'm from Los Angeles Valley College, and I'm actually also here representing Lane.
Oh, okay.
Back in 2001, a coalition of organizations, the Valley Jobs Coalition, came together to work with this developer to negotiate a community benefits agreement. The coalition was led by Lane with a variety of neighborhood people involved: Los Angeles Valley College, housing advocates, child care and social service groups, unions, small business groups, and local residents of the area. Together, we worked to negotiate a win-win with the developer that included a requirement that 75% of the permanent jobs be living wage, local hiring for those jobs with job training, affordable housing, and a child care center, of which I'm involved. As a result of working together, the developer hasn't had any opposition, and we strongly support this project.
Okay. Now, I'm just trying to get some background on your item, so why don't, if you would just take advantage of this minute that you have left.
To tell you the overall general...
Keep going.
My piece of it is the child care piece, and I represent Valley College. We were involved from the beginning to negotiate and to work with the developer on how that portion would be used. I can't speak in terms of the entire project. I think that there's other people here who can speak to that better than I can. But I can tell you that Valley College will be handling the child care piece. We will be having child care offered to low-income subsidized child care through our child care center that's on campus. In addition, that is available to community people as well, and we're right on the Orange Line, so we're well situated for North Hollywood people, as well as we do a lot of community work with parenting issues, lots of parent programs for low-income folks in the area who come onto our campus.
All right, I see, with no objections, then we will, on this item, adopt the CLA report, and I thank you for taking the time to come down and testify. Okay, why don't we... Okay. So what we'll do, before we do item 3, I have 2 cards on public comment, so I want to kind of switch back to that. And we have Roman Sitnikovsky. And I hope I did the best I could to pronounce that.
Yes, sir. Sir, because I think that this topic has public interest, I ask to give me a chance to read page and a half, more than 2 minutes.
Well, why don't we just do the best we can with 2 minutes, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. I represent myself and many senior disabled low-income tenants of Los Angeles, and this is about Los Angeles housing disaster and measures to stop it. So it really has public interest. I, a senior 74-plus-year-old disabled low-income United States citizen, a victim of Northeast earthquakes, a month ago on April 1st, reported my complaint to the City Council regular session. The end of this complaint was, please save my life, because I became another, not the first, and unfortunately not the last victim of criminal Los Angeles housing disaster. Several years ago, this disaster was created by criminal actions of the Apartment Association of Great Los Angeles. Its abbreviation AGLA sounds pretty ugly, and their corrupted supporters. AGLA offered its greedy members absolutely unacceptable for senior disabled low-income Los Angeles tenants so-called standard, that means nothing personal, notice of non-renewal and non-extension of Section 8 contract, and notice of change of rent payment obligation that already killed many qualified for non-eviction Angelenas. A year ago, I, one of qualified Angelenas, received such notice from my former landlord, with whom I was a tenant and had no problems for 13 years of my tenancy, with Federal Emergency Management Agency voucher issued to a victim of Northeast earthquake, which was managed by HASLA Section 8 for more than 13 years and was accepted landlord. And this was federal Section 8 voucher valid anywhere in the United States. After receiving this notice...
Roman.
Okay,
we're going to just...
very, very simply.
Just keep...
Okay, after receiving this notice, with the threat of forced eviction, I had heard the tragic story of an American-born lonely old lady who became crazy and thus died almost immediately after such forced eviction. And I decided to stop a criminal change of similar killing in Los Angeles and other United States cities according to great religions and moral principles. Who, if not I, why, if not now? If I am not for myself, who is for myself? If I am only for myself, why am I here? For 9 months, I had a loan without any legal aid that I could not afford financially, fought against AGLA for constitutional non-discrimination rights of qualified tenant not to be evicted until I, a senior, 74-plus-year-old, disabled, low-income U.S. citizen, a victim of Northeast earthquake, had got 100% unlawful forced eviction on the street at winter time on January 2nd, 2008. HASLA Section 8 office was informed about all details of my fight from the beginning to the end, but it did not help me to prevent this awful, unlawful eviction. Moreover, it just tried to convince me to voluntarily leave the apartment.
Roman,
And-
this is what we're going to do now.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to have a chat. We have a representative here from the Housing Department right behind you.
Okay.
So take, I don't want to say take advantage of the system, this situation, but maybe you could engage in a discussion with her, and she may be able to assist you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And I do have one question for you, though.
For me?
For you.
Yes.
One question for you. Twice you said 74 plus. So what is it? Just tell me.
74 plus. It's
So
something.
so that means 74 plus 3 months, or is it what?
Oh, no, I was born January 5th, 1934. It was 3 days after my unlawful eviction on the street.
Well, you look pretty good for 74 plus, whatever. So from now on, I'm going to be 39 plus. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Can I give this text
Yes,
to you?
yes, please. You can give it to the gentleman over there. Don't start, Perry.
20,
Now I'm going to,
35.
I'm being harassed by my own Cleveland. But anyway, thank you for coming. That brings us last public comment, Mr. Chuck Tennant. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Herb and committee members. TOPA, Tenants Opportunity to Purchase, and the Community Land Trust for more affordable housing solution. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I asked Andrew. Is it
He's
the
going to do
last
it next week.
Oh, okay, and that's
Next week,
okay.
so you can move that.
I did want to say, well,
Right, Andrew? Next week? Next week, Chuck.
okay. Look, I want to show you all Herb's newsletter that I get in the mail. You got to read it. It's the best in the city. Get a copy. It's better than the Daily News and the LA Times combined.
That doesn't say much.
Yeah, it does.
I didn't say, we didn't say that. Go on, Chuck. And it
Talking
is the
about
color. I don't know why.
Economics. You know, there's something that I thought of the other day and I saw it. Double parking space violations by one vehicle taking up 2 spaces. That has to do with economics and developments. It happens in your district too, Herb. We have enforcement, but we don't enforcement, and it does not require additional enforcement, and it could work to generate new revenue. 2 weeks ago at the Red Line, 13 spaces I saw people taking up 2 spaces. Last week, 15. This morning I didn't have time. There was about 8 I saw. Literally hundreds and thousands of them each day in public parking structures in this city. This enforcement violation can reduce the loss of available parking, and we need more. Gain more revenue that this city needs, access to more available parking, reduce wasted available space. It's costing the city and depriving the public. Taking more from the public to close the city deficit gap is, you're not looking hard enough. There are more practical and justifiable ways for new revenue without taking more away from an already distressed public. You have an army of sheriffs. I see them every time I take the bus there, and you know what? It can work. A $50 fine. And Tony, I got a great idea for gang violence and the prevention. I have a program there, and that's about it. I'm out of time, but truthfully, that double parking thing, all over. I see it, and there's sheriffs, and they go around, but nobody enforces it. Is it right for people to take up 2 spaces? You know why they do it? They don't want to get their car nicked. Well, don't park there.
Okay, wait a second, Chuck. Now, I will agree with you that this month's newsletter is a special newsletter.
And it is, but it's a wonderful one, and thank you for sending it to me.
My grandson is on the front cover. So
I know.
I urge everybody to go buy it at the newsstand.
That's right.
Will you autograph it?
Also, I want to say I don't know if Ms. Perry noticed, I sure did, I want to clarify that when Mr. Cardenas spoke a few minutes ago, that he did not say the LA Times, because the LA Times popped in here, so I just want them to know that you you, DZ is on the scene, so he did not say anything about the Los Angeles Times. And the last thing, where it relates to the cars, and you did reference it, are they primarily like new cars? I mean, because it kind of chaps my hide too when you go and you see somebody in a brand new car and they take 2 spaces because they don't want somebody to
No.
ding their car. Or
All
was it-
cars, and I can only imagine throughout the city in public parking structures and lots.
Gotcha.
I can't believe it.
I
If you
gotcha.
went there on a Wednesday, you'd see it. It's not right. They should be fined.
Gotcha.
And then it'll discourage that, and it'll give more space, which is needed. And all the sheriffs are there. They go by, so it's not going to cost to do any more enforcement. It's just that they don't enforce it.
I got you. Mr. Cardenas has a comment, Chuck. You
Yes,
stay there. You stay in the hot
You know,
seat.
that, people might think that's a petty issue, but it is a serious issue because especially when you have public transportation and people can't situate their vehicle so they can get out the vehicle and use public transportation, so it's a big issue. Being that we're on general public comment, I don't want to be specific, but I think that your recommendation sounds like, I would think it's the Transportation Committee might want to take up the fact that when somebody parks in a public place, they probably are not required to only take 1 spot unless they actually paid. But on a lot of our places, like the one you're describing, they're not paying. So maybe the city take it to the Transportation Committee, and if none of the committee members there take it up, I'm willing to take it up for you when it comes to us looking into the legality of us being able to cite people, because I'm pretty sure you can't cite somebody for taking 2 parking spots if you don't have an agreement as they enter the premises. You follow what I'm saying? But if you do have an understanding that they are allowed with 1 vehicle to take up 1 spot, then they could be cited. So it's probably a situation where in some cases we might not be within the law. So again, take it to the Transportation Committee.
Well, you know
And,
what, Mr. Cardenas, that's an excellent idea, but maybe we should look at it another way. Mr. City Attorney, what about, can this committee send a communique to Transportation asking them to look into this? Would that fall in your kettle of fish or the clerk's? I mean, he's got all his staff down there. I mean, he's got an entourage.
Yeah, his
So-
his entourage over there.
Not for long.
Not for long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, so how do we do that? Because, well, I mean, it's not just for the financial.
Yeah, perhaps make a motion
Reasons.
in council, and then it'll be referred to the appropriate committee.
We can't just do it in a letter form. It has to be an actual motion. Can't we say, this was discussed? I mean, I just don't, why do we have to go through all that? Can't we send a letter indicating that this was brought up?
The young chairman wants to save some money.
And would we, the 39-year-old chairman?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, isn't there a creative way that we can just from one committee to another ask that this be looked into without a
Discuss it with the
formal
clerk,
motion?
but I can discuss it with the clerk, but usually I think the matter's brought up through motion and then referred to the.
Well, I understand usually, but I'm just saying that unusual doesn't always mean that it's not
Or
good.
if we don't want to have to go through that formal process or what have you, like a suggestion to the presenter here, if he took it to that committee, obviously that's not official council, but as I recommended to him to talk to the Transportation Committee, and hopefully they'll take it up.
And that would be a good idea, to take it to the appropriate
Yeah.
committee directly.
It's a lot of revenue.
Okay.
It's a good cause.
But you know what,
Gives-
City Attorney, would you draft a letter that Mr. Cardenas and I will sign that will send to Transportation? Just something like that, okay?
We'll take a look if we can do that.
Could you do that?
Thank you.
Okay, Chuck, thank you, good to see you. Okay, that brings us to item 3. Madam,
Item
Ms.
3.
Barclay.
Item 3 is reports from the CRA and the CLA relative to environmental action and the transfer of floor area rights for the proposed Park Fifth project.
Okay, we'll start out with Russell Brown, if you could come forward, and John Whitaker, and then Rich Marr. Don't be shy. Don't be scared.
Oh, my goodness, I can't believe.
Good morning.
Oh, no, what you just said.
I know, I just said.
Where your people is.
Good morning.
Good morning. Russell Brown, I'm president
Security.
I'm president of Downtown LA Neighborhood Council, which represents the 450,000 stakeholders in downtown. Also the executive director of the Historic Downtown Bid and a 5.5-year resident. We're very much in support of this project. We know it will make substantial changes in the neighborhood and in our community. It's world-class design. It has amenities. It will have a hotel and services that can also be linked with the Red Line and a soon-to-be-developed streetcar line and become linking both the Biltmore and Park Fifth to the convention center. We're especially excited about the improvements that are possible with Pershing Square and their substantial benefit for affordable housing. We really look at maximizing the connection of the Biltmore and the Park Fifth and the Pershing Square neighborhood with the historic core, and it will be instrumental in the redevelopment of Broadway. So we very wholeheartedly support this. We also want to congratulate the Park Fifth people for being so inclusive and working with the community for almost 3 years, both in the design and the outreach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. John Whitaker with DLA Piper, the attorneys for Park Fifth Associates, the applicant here. This is
good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This is the second TFAR application that I've brought to this committee. This is a much larger project. This is really the ultimate, the other end of the spectrum of the full 13-to-1 fabulous project, potentially over $17 million in cash and community benefits will be derived as far as transferring the TFAR from the convention center. I'm here primarily to answer any questions from the city attorney or the committee regarding the application or the related documents that are involved here, the covenants that are being recorded. It totally complies with the TFAR ordinance. We worked hand in hand with the council office and with the CRA regarding how the money is to be allocated with the committee that is the trust fund committee. So I think the TFAR ordinance works. This is the first real case of seeing how it works, and we appreciate your consideration in moving it forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
We need short microphones for short people. Rich Marr with the development team for Park Fifth. I, like John, am really here to respond to any questions you may have. We appreciate your consideration. It's been a long, arduous road. It has been 3 years. We started this road May 9th, 2005. And David Houck, who is the progenitor of this project, has been at it for almost 30 years. So it's been a long time coming, but we're very pleased to be where we are and appreciate your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Do we still have the Sergeant at Arms?
Why?
You know, I can relate, and I'm sensitive to Mr. Marr's suggestion that we have some shorter microphones. So since I see eye to eye with him, maybe we'll get one little. Anyway, next we have Ann Nguyen and Mike Alvidrez.
I thought you were going to have the Sergeant at Arms throw us out. Thank you, sir.
It comes so far.
I didn't see Ann. Ann?
Hello, good morning. Ann Nguyen of the Central City Association. I'm delighted to be here in support of the TFAR application for the Park Fifth project. It's a great example of the positive impact TFAR will have within downtown's redevelopment areas. The site will be built at greater density with both residential, commercial components, contributing to our overall revitalization. We're encouraged to see that TFAR is being used and bringing investment in downtown, even as the overall housing market becomes unsteady. As more projects move forward, we look forward to seeing a more vibrant and dense downtown. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Mike Alvidrez, Executive Director of the Skid Row Housing Trust. I want to speak in favor of the project, which looks just wonderful. I think it's hitting all the right buttons with smart growth, a new amenity that capitalizes on the existing landmark status around Pershing Square, its connection to to transportation, I think, is a just wonderful idea. I'm here to speak primarily, given that we're named as one of the beneficiaries of the TFAR transfer payments. We at Skid Row Housing Trust have used TFAR payments in the past on 3 separate projects, which are yielding 278 units, either in construction, already built, or in development. And our most recent one passed under the ordinance, the new T4 ordinance that was adopted by City Council, I think in large part due to Jan Perry's leadership, is adding another 97 units for the new Carver Apartments, which is the first project that we will address the issue of hospital dumping. We are very much in support of utilizing these funds to continue our work to bring quality, affordable housing to the city, particularly at a time when the equity tax credit markets are very much in flux. And so these funds will help us close a gap. Secondarily, these funds can be used to develop some of the storefront retail that many of our neighbors in the downtown historic core so badly want to see. So we're very optimistic about being a recipient of these funds. We think it's a great project that the park folks have put together, and we will be more than happy to be the beneficiary of those transfer payment public benefit funds. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you for coming, and I appreciate your words. As an aside, Ms. Perry and Mr. Cardenas, Mike and I experienced, in fact, it's hard to describe. It has never happened before. I'm wondering if this has ever happened to you. He and I did a press conference about the creation of some new housing, and it was on a very rainy day. It wasn't pouring down rain, but it was raining, and it was at a muddy construction site, and it was a press conference where Governor Schwarzenegger was going to be there, or was there. So we're waiting for him, and they have this pop-up tent, and so we're under this pop-up tent. And then all of a sudden, the governor comes, they move the pop-up tent and cover the press, okay? So we're standing out there in the rain. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck happened on that one.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's an indication of who's important in this city. So.
I guess. They could have at least given us some umbrellas, and that's when, and just to show you how people kiss up to people, we're underneath the pop-up tent, and a representative from the governor's office comes forward and says, do you guys want to walk across all of this mud to the sidewalk and greet the governor when he gets out of his car? Everybody went but me. I said, I'm not screwing up my shoes for the governor. Anyway, on item 3, without objection, we will adopt the CLA report.
I want to say one thing.
Oh, Ms. Perry?
Please. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about this project, and there's just 2 points that I wanted to make, and we'll do some clarification language when it comes to council on the nonprofits that we, as we develop downtown, we encourage all nonprofits to put retail on the ground floor and social services above the ground floor so that we can have retail activity to generate revenue to go towards the deferred maintenance of the building. And I'll have some language prepared for that when it gets to council.
Okay. Mr. Cardenas, and in fact, but Ms. Perry, you've been doing a lot of, wonderful, creative, cutting-edge things. It's just, all joking aside, it's a pleasure working with you. Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair. Thank you.
What's the name of the building that's attached to it, the old building? It's on the corner? Come on up, John, or somebody.
The Title Guarantee Building.
I'm sorry, what?
Title Guarantee Building.
Okay.
76 residential units.
So that's an existing facility that it has some kind of low-income housing component?
No, it's market rate housing.
Oh, market rate. So that's part of the project, or that's?
It originally was. We bought it, restored it. It was La Piñon's headquarters for a number of years. Sold it a couple of years ago to former employee of mine, Daniel Swartz, who has converted it from office to housing.
Got it.
People are moving in as we speak. It's leasing up and doing very well.
Now, of the 790 residential units, are any of those going to be subsidized housing units?
No.
No? So it's all market rate?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know who the 212-room hotel is going to be operated by?
We are very close. We have an opportunity. We're getting
so
close to it.
you haven't finalized
announcing
that
it.
yet?
Have not finalized it.
Okay. Maybe some kind of chain or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Be a 5-star operator.
5-star. Okay, excellent. Now, Ms. Perry,
Yes?
can you help educate me on, thank you, can you help educate me on the $17,700,000, how $14,200,000 is public benefit payment in cash, and then the other $3.4 million is TFAR transfer payment? How does that work?
I think the best person to explain that and the process that we went through would be David Rigatello, if he's still here.
He's here?
David, come on down, David. Yeah. Come on down, Dave. No. He doesn't hide. He doesn't hide. Let him walk you through it.
The way the TFAR payment is set up is it's based on appraised value, and then you calculate through that process to get to the public benefit payment. And then the transfer fee is actually the purchase price associated with the seller of the TFAR. In this case, since it's the city, the ordinance spells out the process for determining the selling price of the TFAR. I believe it's 10% of 10%, but no less than $5 a square foot. And so that's how that came about.
Right. So the TFAR transfer payment is no less than $5 a square foot? Okay. That's what you're saying?
10%.
That's correct.
But no less than $5.
No less than $5. So
if 10% of the TFAR, which I think in this case is $20 a square foot, would have been $2.
Right.
That's how you got to 5 instead of the 2. But if it turned out to be 6, and you charge, if it was $60 per square foot for the public benefit payment, then the transfer fee would be $6.
Now, you're talking about $5 based on the 692,888 square feet?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Now, that TFAR transfer payment, where does it go? How does the city receives it, right? But what entity within the city receives it?
It's a trust fund that's administered by the city clerk's office, and there's a public benefit committee that's been put together.
And that's the one where the benefits go to a radius around the project or something?
It's true for all the money that's received.
Right. The committee is comprised of various offices, including which will be including the CLA, and they look at requests for specific categories which are included in the TFAR ordinance, which is housing, supported services, transportation related, even pre-development within the radius.
Okay.
So
what's the radius?
It's after the fact.
Because we just defined that in the last few months, right?
Isn't it 2 miles, right?
2 miles.
Yeah.
2 miles, 2 mile radius. And the 14.2 million, it's handled a little bit different than the TFAR transfer payment?
Right. Under the 14.2, there's actually a formula which is also part of the application.
Okay.
And the developer has 3 options. And the first option is to cut a check, cash payment, provide the direct allocation of funding to various organizations, entities, including cash, as well as cash. And I believe also, let me get my notes here real quick. It could be cash payment to the trust fund, direct provision of services by the applicant themselves, or both cash and direct provision. In this case, the developer has elected to provide all provision of services, which is the 14.2.
Mm-hmm. I apologize, Ms. Perry. I know this is your district, but I got to ask this question.
fine.
Not that this is ever going to take place in the valley.
It could.
I know it could.
You got a city hall
It's a
out
different world out there.
Oh, I forgot.
But they get crazy when you're going over 5 stories out there. They protest and all that. Very different. You have 790 residential units, and you chose to do market rate. Any particular reason why you didn't want to do a mix of subsidized housing versus and market rate housing?
I'm not the developer. I represent the developer. That Mr. Marr can speak to that issue, but I think it was a.
I'm not asking you to.
Yeah, there was
I'm not
a decision.
asking you
No,
to.
and
I'm just curious.
That's why the TFAR ordinance.
And a lot of the $14 million and the $3 million are going to go toward that community benefiting from the subsidized housing as well. So I'm not here asking you. I'm not trying to cause problems. I just want to try to understand on a project like this how it came about to just let's just do 790 market rate.
Well, basically, it comes down to the fundamental economics. The cost of construction is such that today was the only way we could make the numbers pencil, is to simply do market rate. And even in order to do that, we literally have got to achieve a whole new price point in terms of what we are selling for. Mm-hmm. And the good news is it's working, even in these tough times. So we're very, very pleased that we'll be able to get this thing in the ground and out of the ground and complete it.
Well, thank you, and I definitely want to compliment you on your commitment. $1 billion is a lot of money, and for someone or an organization to go ahead and take that risk, and that's one thing I want everybody to understand in the room when they think that these people aren't doing enough for the community. They don't have to do anything. They can go to New York, they can go to Chicago, they can go invest their $1 billion somewhere else. So I just want to welcome you and thank you for that investment. And I think that you're going to start a trend. And I think Los Angeles, thank you, Ms. Perry, is finally going to go to where it's supposed to go. We're a city that's young compared to East Coast cities, but we're a city that needs to understand that this is part of what cities like ours should be doing. So I want to thank you and congratulate you for your good work and your commitment to that investment. And I will look forward to your success. Because with your success will bring other successes as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Can I just give an editorial comment, because I totally agree with the council member on that?
You're ahead.
What? No. I just wanted to say.
Dangerous.
Oh, no. This is. I wanted to compliment. I wanted to say that this is the way you received the TFAR ordinance. It really does work, and that's why the developers, we can put together these packages. And I hope there are a number of other developers who have been waiting to see how this one goes. And if it goes through the way it's going in a positive manner, then I hope to be bringing some other projects to you in the near future. So thank you very much for the way you've been approaching this.
And then you can sell the air rights over the Van Nuys City Hall, too.
I mean,
you know
where
what?
Where to put it after that is the issue.
You know what, Miss Perry?
Yes.
I figured it out.
What's that?
John is being paid by the word.
That's
what it is.
Okay,
so on item 3, we will adopt the CLA report. That brings us to item 8. Ms. Barclay, if you could read the item, and I have some public comment cards on item 8.
Item 8 is reports from the Los Angeles Housing Department and the CAO relative to a loan agreement with the New Generation Fund and associated program guidelines.
Okay, so what we'll do, let's get the
They really freak out.
cards from the public first. I'll call Louis Bernardi and Jacqueline Wagner.
Crazy.
If you two could please come forward. You're first, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see if Jacqueline could start first, and she's with Enterprise and probably should be the lead on the public comment.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Jacqueline Wagner. I'm the Deputy Director for Enterprise Community Partners. Enterprise has been around for about 25 years. We've invested $9 billion nationwide and helped house about 240,000 people. We've been in LA for about 10 years. New Generation is a new generation in terms of acquisition fund, but we are very familiar with public and private partnerships. We work in conjunction with a lot of nonprofit and for-profit developers that are engaged in doing affordable housing. This leverages a lot of capital for the city to invest in more affordable housing in the city of LA, and we appreciate your consideration for this request.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lou Bernardi. I'm with McCormick, Barra, and Salazar. Here in Los Angeles, I'm here to urge your support for the department's recommendation for the approval of the loan agreement for the New Generation Fund. As everyone knows, production and preservation of affordable housing is key to the economic well-being of neighborhoods throughout the city. Our company is vested in many neighborhoods in the city and working towards creating more affordable housing. This New Generation Fund is a critical tool, I think, for the housing department and the city, and that it's catalytic. It will promote efficiency, it will promote scale with respect to preservation and new construction. It will promote transparency because stakeholders are at the table in terms of reviewing prospective projects and transactions. It provides value for the city with respect to allowing development to proceed at a faster pace so that we can create and preserve units in a quicker period of time. And I think it promotes a return on investment for the city in that it will leverage city dollars so that we can again create more units and preserve affordability in a more compacted period of time. So I urge your support and approval.
Thank you.
Can I make one final comment?
course.
I want to say that it's a great opportunity. I mean, I know that the city is kind of charged with bringing all the housing heads together. LHD is involved, and we're also working with the CRA closely to get involved in the New Generation Fund as well. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
That brings forth, or now we have Paul Zimmerman and Ben Phillips.
Good morning. I'm the director of the Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing, and I'm going to be respectful of your time and not repeat what my colleagues just said on the tremendous value of this new financing source for nonprofit development in the city. But just add that I think it does another couple of things that are really groundbreaking in that it has brought together national foundations, resources and financing from all around the country to bring to bear on impacting the development of affordable housing in the city of Los Angeles. And I think this is really very important. It has really reached all the way, the housing department staff and the enterprise community have reached all the way across the country and brought resources to Los Angeles, and this is crucial. So in addition to how important this is in lowering the tremendous barriers that nonprofit corporations have in getting that first dollar, being able to buy that land initially and start a project, I think it bodes very well for the future and bringing in additional resources. So I would also not only urge you to support the program, but I would really urge you to praise really the housing department staff in putting together a very complicated, sophisticated deal that's going to bring a lot of benefit to our community.
Thank you, and without a doubt, I want to, I don't see Mercedes, but I do see Yolanda. I mean, they have done a phenomenal person's job on this, and it's creative, it's out of the box thinking, and it's something that I think will be very successful, and they have done a heck of a job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Carter.
Was there another card presenter?
Yeah, there is. You want to wait till after,
I'll
Mr. Ben?
Good morning. Thanks to the chair and the committee for the opportunity to speak on this issue today. My name is Ben Phillips. I'm the regional director for Mercy Housing here in Southern California. Mercy Housing is a national developer and operator of affordable housing. We serve about 50,000 people nationwide, and during the 8 years or so we've been in Southern California, we've developed about 1,000 units here. And I'm here to encourage you to continue the work on this important acquisition fund that LA needs desperately, I think, in order to meet its roughly 4,000 units per year need for affordable housing development. Land costs and construction costs have increased dramatically over the last 10 years or so, 2-3-fold, and it makes the initiation of these developments at any kind of reasonable scale so that you end up with developments that are attractive, that are well operated, that are sustainable over the long term. It makes that exceedingly difficult with the existing resources that we've typically used to piece them together, because the acquisition piece and the pursuit costs just up front are so much higher than they ever were before, and just going to a single lender or an acquisition fund that already exists with a single lender doesn't really work anymore. We need to acquire properties that may be $10 million, and when you add up the acquisition and the pursuit costs. So the fund is important, the scale that it reaches is important, and I think that the projects that are generated will be a real continuation and step forward in terms of our ability to leverage funds for the community.
Thank you. And Ms. Perry, I want to. It's been a pleasure working with Mercy Housing. Mm-hmm. I believe it was the original Fat Burger site on Western. They're converting into development in the district that I'm fortunate enough to represent. And I think Thursday we go before the CRA, and I'm certain all will go well. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming, and I think Mr. Cardenas had a statement or a question. So, Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you. To the Housing Department, Yolanda?
Good morning.
Good morning. So this money will be made available to developers in order to acquire the land. So it's basically when money is going to be introduced into a project on the first step, pretty much?
Exactly. It's a pre-development and acquisition loan fund, which we hope will eventually close to $200 million. It is the first for the city, of course, and only the second of its type in the country. The other one operating in New York City.
Where?
New York.
New York.
New York
City.
Okay. Now, that loan, is it become a first, a second, or does that loan subordinate as the deal becomes more complicated and we start getting these other layers of financing and things of that
It's a
nature?
revolving loan fund, so the developer will actually repay it when they receive the permanent financing.
Oh, okay. So it's basically bridging the project to the point where you don't have to wait till the person sells the project or transfers it later. The bottom line is by the time the project is occupied, for example, say they buy a piece of dirt and they're going to build something, by the time it's occupied, this loan will be replenished?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, this money is basically leveraging funds from private banks, et cetera, private investors. Is theirs repaid at that time, or we're just talking about the city funds are treated separately?
I'll have Sean Spear, who's been leading this effort with our general manager, go.
Okay.
John, you've done a heck of a job.
Thank you, sir.
A very exciting endeavor.
Well,
Thank you.
He's not done. He hasn't answered my
I know.
question.
I thought to answer his question.
I guarantee you he'll be prepared to answer the question.
Yeah.
Again, your name for the record.
Yes, that's Sean Spear from the Housing Department. The primary thing is that the funds themselves will, when each of both the banks, the foundations, and our investment close into the fund, those funds will be readily available to be able to make loans available to developers through the originating lenders that we've talked about. The main thing is that it's essentially a commitment, and when the loan is ready to close with the developer, at that point they'll draw down the funds from whichever bank will be involved, and will actually then make those dollars available under the loan.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the risk, are other two partners, categorical partners in this, we're spreading the risk evenly, or is someone taking more of the burden percentage-wise or what have you?
By virtue of how much each individual and the guarantee pool, which is a portion of the fund that basically is acting as a backstop on the event that, which we hope we never lose funds on, but if there was a loan that defaulted, that they would access those guarantee funds. So we have $10 million in there. There are various foundations that will come in as well that will have some funds in there. So there's proportional shares involved with that.
Okay, so it is proportional.
Right.
Okay.
But there's kind of a waterfall of risk associated with it. And in fact, the first risk that comes out is the funds that the origination fee that the originating lenders will be putting into the deal. So it essentially makes sure that everyone involved has some risk in each of the transactions, and will be really forced to really look very carefully at each individual loan and make sure it makes financial sense.
Now, if somebody wants to access this fund, this new generation fund, would they go to Enterprise Community Partners, or do they go to the LA Housing, or?
Yeah, the advantage is actually that they will go to essentially the same banks that they typically deal with. We have a set of 5 community development banks. So there's Enterprise, as well as the Corporation for Supportive Housing, the Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC for short, the Low Income Investment Fund, LIF, and then also Century Housing. So many of these are the same lenders that regularly do this type of business. It's just providing a new source of loan funds to be able to make loans to these.
So they would actually apply for these funds through one of those 5 entities?
Right. And it's over the counter, so it's basically whenever the project is ready or whenever they're ready to look to close on the acquisition.
And this is eligible for projects from SRO housing all the way up to 150% of AMI?
Exactly. And also for home ownership. So it's not just rental.
Yeah.
It's rental and
I
home
figure
ownership.
once we get to the
Right.
150%, then we're probably hopefully getting into home ownership
Right.
opportunities as well. That's right. And so basically what we've created here is something on our own, and therefore are we or are we not having to subject ourselves to any kind of federal or state guidelines or what have you? Obviously, they're inherent in the project in and of itself because they're going to other funds and acquiring funds from the federal government or the state government or what have you. But as far as this fund goes,
Are we? No, we're an investor in the fund, but being an investor does not require us to meet any kind of federal banking regulation, if that's what you're asking, or state. No.
okay, all right. Well, it definitely is creative, and it makes a lot of sense. And yes, you have done a great job. And I don't, I never like to compare ourselves to New York, but being that they're the only ones who have done it, obviously we've learned from their mistakes or their learning curve on how to create the language and make the fund accurate and effective based on our objectives. So you look confident that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Sounds good to me. Thank you. Good job.
Okay, then without objection, we will adopt the CAO report.
I'm afraid at the moment, Mr. Chair, we don't have a quorum.
Yeah, Ms. Perry's.
She stepped out of the room.
She's off the carpet.
She'll be right. She'll be right.
I can ask another question.
Wait a minute. Can somebody give me something to throw? I mean, I don't consider that's the.
I do. I would like to have. I stopped my questions. I thought we were running out of time.
Last week, I had to get on him about not wearing jeans.
I have the braces.
Them the rules, man. Mr. Chair, could I ask another question?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Now this I presume is the beginning of this fund.
Exactly. It's going to close in phases, and the first closing is May 15th. And that will close at $100 million.
Okay.
And the next closing.
What's the next phase? What is our objective for the next phase?
There'll be additional both lenders that will come in. There are a couple of lenders that are currently underwriting the fund, and so it's expected that they will hopefully make commitments within the next couple of months. There's also a couple of foundations for which we are applying for funding from them to help with the guarantee pool that we'll be considering over the summer. And then, lastly, what we're also expecting is that the CRA is also considering investing in the fund, and so we would hopefully bring them alongside as well.
Okay. I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
We do have a quorum.
I'm sorry, I had to go to
No,
the
you're
powder room.
you're fine. As far as I'm concerned, when the purse is still here, the person is here. Without objection, we will.
Let my purse vote.
You got it. We will adopt the CAO report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Barclay, is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
This committee is adjourned, so let it be written, so let it be done. All right. I got a little. Yeah. Now I gotta go get some Dixie.